Good morning, everyone. It's Valentine's Day, and as much as I don't like the holiday, I kind of needed an excuse to bake something. So today I am making chocolate fudge cupcakes. I am just using a mix because the Betty Crocker recipe I have calls for something that my store doesn't carry, so I didn't feel like dealing with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the cupcakes, bake them in cupcake cases, pins, pans, whatever you want to call them. I can't think. And then I'm going to show you guys how to make my family's signature frosting. And I may actually end up putting little surprises inside the cupcakes or adding some amaretto to the frosting. So what you need is just the Betty Crocker Super Moist Chocolate Fudge Cake Mix. And it calls for 1.25 cups of water, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and 3 eggs. I've measured all this out. And I have a tip and trick for anyone who is crazy about their eggs. If you get shell in your egg, don't freak out. Don't try and go in there with your fingers or a spoon. Take the eggshell and cut through the egg white, because nothing else is going to cut through the egg quite as well, and you can get the shell out almost guaranteed every time. Another important bit of information is I'm using a metal mixing bowl because I'm using a hand mixer. If you're using a hand mixer, you want to make sure to always use plastic or metal unless you have a glass that is specifically designed to be beater safe. Otherwise, you're going to possibly end up with tiny shards of glass in your batter, and that's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and combine all of these ingredients and give it a mix, and I'll come back in just a minute. So there's the cake mix in the bowl. Go ahead and add your oil. Your eggs. And I'm sure by some cooking standards you're probably supposed to start beating this now, and then add your eggs one by one, but I don't ever really do that, and my stuff tastes just fine. And then this is 1.25 cups of water. My measuring only goes to 1 cup, but I added another 1/4, so. And then let's start mixing it. This is a little bit of a process, so I am going to pause right here. So there is the blended batter. There are still a few lumps, but you don't want to overbeat your batter. Otherwise, the texture is going to be harder and not as moist or soft, if that makes sense. So, and make sure you scrape the edges with a spatula to make sure you have gotten all of the dry mix. And then you are ready to go fill your cupcake cups. So here I have my greased muffin tins, cupcake tins. I grease the top of them because I hate it when, have some light on the subject, I hate it when the top of the cupcakes stick to the pan. So if you grease the top, that keeps that from happening. Some of the cups are greased, and then they are all filled with cupcake papers. And I like to use a tablespoon to fill up these cupcake cups. You do want to fill them about 2/3 full. That'll give you the best proportion cupcake. And also your oven should be heating to 350 or 325 if you are using a dark pan with no cups. So I turned that on. I forgot to mention it. Totally my bad. But I'm just going to go ahead and fill these cups, and then we're going to put them in the oven. So here we have our filled cupcake cups. I actually managed to get all 24, just like the recipe says. That's kind of uncommon, so I'm proud. And then right here I have some semi-sweet chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and liquid center chocolate-covered cherries. And I'm just going to press press one of these into the center of a couple of them, and then top a couple of them with the chocolate chips. And I'll be honest with you, I have never put a liquid cherry in the center of a cupcake before, so I really honestly don't know how well this is going to turn out. Always turn away from your baked goods if you need to sneeze or cough. So see how it's not quite submerged, but as the cake bakes, it'll come up over the chocolate. And then just a couple white chocolate chips and a few of them. can always add more. Or less, if you don't want anything in your cupcakes, you don't have to do this. I'm just feeling kind of adventurous and wanted to play around today, so that is the method behind my madness. And I'm sorry for the choppy video here, but alrighty, so then let's go with some semi-sweet. If you're using chocolate chips in any kind of baking item, these are actually pretty okay right now, but if your chocolate chips develop that white film on them called bloom, they're still okay to use in baking. I just wouldn't necessarily recommend them for direct eating because as they bake, they melt and the milk solids come back together. Well, I guess I'm going to have one that's got some chocolate and some white in it. And you can add more than what I'm adding. I know small Milky Ways and Snickers work really well in cupcakes. I don't have any of those, so I'm just doing what I'm doing. These cupcakes are ready to go into the oven. I am just going to bang them to get any air bubbles out and flatten the batter down, and then we're going to throw them in the oven for 18 to 23 minutes. I almost forgot the best part about being the baker. When you're done, you get to lick the bowl. Alright, so it's been 18 minutes. I just pulled these out of the oven. My timer went off. And I'm going to use a regular toothpick and just do a toothpick test in the center of these middle two to make sure that they are fully cooked. No crumbs. No crumbs. No crumbs. No crumbs. Alright, so these are cooked, and we're going to let them cool, and then I'll show you guys how to make the frosting, and we'll get these all topped and ready to eat. Alright, it's frosting time. So what you need for the frosting is some vanilla, a stick of butter or margarine, 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, and a pound of powdered sugar. I find that Hershey's works best for the frosting. You will also need some milk. I just didn't want to get that out right now. So what you want to do is cut your butter into small pieces and break up the bar, which I'm in the process of doing the butter. I've already done the bar. And you want to put it in a small saucepan on low heat just until it's completely and totally melted. Okay, so the chocolate is pretty much melted now. See how smooth it is? And in this bowl I have about a teaspoon of vanilla, that pound of powdered sugar, and approximately 1/3 of a cup of milk. You want to go ahead and pour the chocolate into your bowl and start mixing. So I've mixed it up, and it actually is a little bit thinner than I want. So in that case, you want to add just a little bit of powdered sugar at a time. See, I want it a little more firm and not quite so glaze-like drippy. So what you want to do is just add more powdered sugar a little bit at a time, and if you add too much powdered sugar, add a little bit of milk. Just be careful, otherwise you will overwhelm the chocolate, and that's not good. Okay, so I added a little bit more powdered sugar, and it's about at the consistency I want. It should be kind of like soft whipping cream. And it is still warm because that chocolate was hot, so you do want to let this frosting cool before you start working with it again. So you can use however much frosting on the cupcakes you want. I don't like a ton of frosting on my cupcakes, even though this frosting is amazing. So I'm probably only going to put between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, but you are free to put on as much as you'd like. The recipe of the frosting, that same amount will frost a 2-layer 9-inch round cake, and will thickly frost a 9x13. It's been a while since I've done cupcakes, but I know it's more than enough. So let me get these frosted, and we'll come back with a little bit of decoration, I think. So here are my finished cupcakes. They're not the most beautiful cupcakes in the world, but it's been a while since I have worked with melted white chocolate, which is what all of the pink you see is. My dad told me that the plain one I took him earlier was really good, and my brother took another plain one and said that it was yummy, and then he came in and got a spoonful of frosting and said that the frosting was good. So I hope my family and my friends enjoy these cupcakes that I made for them today, and I hope you all enjoyed this video.